Hey guys, I'm back again. The last video I put up with the squirrel gut cordage, I said I was working on an idea. Let's see if I can get the camera zoomed in right. Working on an idea for another kind of cordage, and you know, it actually turned out to work really well. I'm kind of excited about it because this is one I hadn't really heard of being used this way. This is a piece of backstrap sinew off a white-tailed doe. Some of the pieces can kind of pull apart a little, but they get snagged. You take a rough rock and roll back and forth, up and down the whole thing. This will start to break some of the fibers up. And actually, if I can get this in close to the camera, no, camera's not showing it very well close. But this separates all the little strands in there. And you do it enough, you can pull the strands apart. Like this. You have a whole bunch of little threads. I'm not going to do this video start to finish like I usually do, because I don't know how to edit videos yet. I have a new camcorder and I don't have any of the editing programs on my computer yet, so I'm just going to show you the different steps of the process. So next would be, you've pulled all the threads out and you have a bunch of little sinew threads like this. You would start with one that's particularly long. Now you'll notice my sinew pieces are really small. Unfortunately, I attempted to back a bow that ended up breaking, and that used the majority of my sinew. So dip that in water for a moment and just do a simple twine on this. So instead of having 10 to 14 inch pieces to work with, I'm stuck with 3 to 4 inch pieces for now. Nice basic twine in there. Take another fairly long piece, dip it in water, this is probably not showing up very well on the video, but I'll show you a finished piece at the end. Do a simple twine splice and go back to rolling the two pieces of sinew. Roll that another ½ inch or so, and then I would want to splice another piece in. There you go. That's where I would splice the next one in. Now this takes a lot longer than most of the fibers that I'm used to, because there's a very fine line with how wet it can be. So I have a piece that I made, and this took me a long time. This took about 15-20 minutes to make. But you can see where all the splices are. This is very thin cordage, but this stuff is amazingly strong. And I tied, I'm not sure if that shows up well, but I tied a little loop on the end. And that loop is for using this stuff as a snare. And I'm actually, since I'm snowed in today, I'm going to make a few of these and leave them. One of the nice things about this, if you moisten it just a little bit, you can pinch it and it holds its shape. Holds its shape much better than most of the other fibers that I work with, but it still slides very easily. Very, very strong. So this alone won't work, because if it were to rain, all the little protein bonds that make up the glue that makes this stuff stay together so well, once it dries, they would all go away. So right now I'm going to get rid of all the parts, add a little bit, and show you the natural way and the cheater way to get some glue for it. Natural way, take a bone, I'll zoom in for just a second, and you can see the little pieces of muscle and connective tissue still left on there. You take your knife and just pull off some pieces like that. Now you would take a whole bunch of them, grind them up into a powder in a, well, the easiest way is just take a very rough rock, and obviously not on a soft leather surface, but you'll get the idea. Grind them up into a rough powder. I don't know if it shows up, but some of it started to become powder down there. Mix that with a little bit of water once the powder is ready, and you have yourself a decent glue. Problem is, you have to have some old bones with a little bit of meat hanging around, and over on paleoplanet.com I was introduced to Knox powder gelatin to make cheaters hide glue. And this stuff is great. It's essentially the same thing. Open this up and show a little bit of this powder. Get that in the center of the frame. There we go. So to make this work, you could put water on it. You could put a dab of water and then coat the cord in it, but there's a better way, and that's to take a finger and touch your tongue, get a little bit of saliva, because inside the cordage, not only do you have these great protein bonds that are holding everything together, but you still have little bits of carbohydrates stuck in there, and one of the enzymes in your saliva, amylase, dissolves the carbohydrates without having any negative effect on the protein bonds. So we're going to do that right now. Just roll this up, and it'll become kind of slimy real fast. Just pull that right down through the cordage. And you want to do this quite a few times. Not sure if you can see that, but that stuff is very sticky. Just a tiny bit of saliva is all it takes. And again, you could use water. It just won't work quite as well. So, this could be done on a perfectly dry day as it is. This could be your final product. Problem with setting most traps is you can't be 100% certain what the weather's going to be. And just like when you're working with buckskins, the protein that acts as a glue can get really wet, really soft, then dry, and if it's not worked, it can become quite hard. Not nearly as much as buckskin, obviously, but one of the easy ways to fix that is take a block of wax. This is candle wax, or paraffin wax from a grocery store. Obviously, you could use any type of fat, and push your thumb into the wax and pull this through. You would want to do that about 5 or 6 times. This obviously isn't done yet, but the purpose here is to try to make it as water resistant as possible. In a natural situation, lard would work very well. Any of the animals that produce lard, as opposed to the more solid fats. And you'd wrap that up, and you have one snare ready to go. Find something nice and heavy, and we will see just how strong this stuff is. Oops. This is the good old standby. If it can lift this, a squirrel or bunny is not going to be a problem. I think we can all agree on that. So, okay, well, there is something else to consider. The knot broke, little little loop in here, and this is definitely not the appropriate way to tie this. And obviously if this had been a snare and that amount of pressure had been put on it, that would be a lost meal. Well, let's try this again. You know what? Well, that proves this stuff is not as strong as I had thought. It's broken twice now, so maybe I'll need to make this a little thicker. This is quite a thin cordage to be using for this. But we'll try it again. I'll make it a little thicker and put another video together.